What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Blacktop Podcast. This is episode 41. We're two-manning it today. Christian isn't able to join us. He just got a recent promotion. Congratulations to the
Ooh,
cousin. But Ruben, bro,
money team.
100%. How you doing?
I'm good, man. It's been a busy time.
It's been a minute.
Uh, I was recovering because I had a colonoscopy last week.
Oh,
So you got a hose going up
yeah,
your
yeah,
a-hole.
yeah, yeah.
That wasn't any fun recovering from that. It wasn't anything crazy, but had that going on, some crazy work stuff. But still managed to get these games in, bro. So you know how
100%.
it is.
I
How
see
you
you.
been,
I
bro?
see you working, bro. Last time we were on the pod, the Milwaukee Bucks were still playing
Oh
playoff
man! Oh
basketball.
my god!
So
We haven't talked about it since. Oh my god!
yeah,
Go ahead.
not to like obviously start off on this whole like Bucks tangent, but I'll get it out the way. It was sad. I'm not gonna lie. I watched the game at my girlfriend's house, and her mom was chatting to me, bro. I was like, man, I can't even say anything. And then I wasn't even mad that they got eliminated. I was more so disappointed because like they went out pretty sorry. But
Yeah,
this whole spiral that's continued since then. I think they've went from like one of the steadiest teams to now I think there's going to be a lot of noise heading into the off season. Obviously I think Chris Middleton's going to stay. I hope they figure out a new contract with Brooke. But the coaching thing I think is the most interesting thing. I've been hearing a lot of things. Nick Nurse is an obviously like big name candidate.
yeah.
But if it's not him, I'd like Charles Lee. But regardless,
Mhm.
it is what it is. You see Giannis's tweet. He's tired of the disrespect. He's coming. Unless
Sure,
he's
yeah.
shooting, unless that coming equates to 35% from the three or something like that. I don't know if I really want it, but is what it is. Let's get into it though, Ruben. All defensive teams just dropped. If
Yeah.
y'all haven't heard already, I'll go through it real quick. So, all defensive first team: Alex Caruso, Drew Holiday, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brooke Lopez, Evan Mobley. And then all defensive second team, you got Bam Adebayo, OG Anunoby, Draymond Green, Derek White, and Mr. I don't respect anyone unless you give me 40, Dylan Brooks. But before we obviously call out some big snubs, let's just discuss, the overall teams, How you feeling with this? I think it's like pretty
Yeah.
solid. I think really the only one that's questionable is maybe Brooks, but you know, Derek White I think is probably that was one where I think he could have potentially been snubbed, but there was like I mean, when you average the most blocks for a guard, you got to be up there for sure.
Yeah. No, I think this list is pretty good. I mean, Brooks, I didn't get a chance to research this before, but I was trying to look for the on and off defensive numbers for Brooks. So that would be a good thing to look into. Truthfully, I hadn't watched a whole lot of Memphis this year from a regular season standpoint, but I mean, he's known for his good defensive prowess,
Mm-hmm.
and um, it's not surprising to me that he's there. I know that there are certainly snubs that we're just gonna discuss. But I can't be mad at this list, man. I think if there was one that I could honestly say is that I think OG Anunoby could have been that first team all defense. I mean, you lead the league in steals. I think that's quite a defensive feat to accomplish
Mm.
amidst the best players in the world, right? And so I think if we're gonna talk about record as something that sets them back, I mean, Toronto did finish with a better regular season record than the Bulls. Um, I mean, at least in the standings wise, they were 9-10. Obviously,
Mm.
Toronto lost. But all in all, I would have switched Caruso and OG simply for that fact. I know that they want to say they want to put Caruso at the guard spot, but I think OG
I
played
feel
a
he's a
lot of
lot
two guard
more
this
a lot
year.
more wing like forward than like guard in that lineup, but
Yeah,
yeah.
and so, anyways, like I think that's my only gripe. Um, I know we'll talk about snubs, but I mean, DJ, who do you think was the biggest snub from all the defensive teams? I had initially said Giannis. It's a little bit shocking that to me he wasn't on this list at all, and I get that Brooke Lopez was the focal point and the anchor of the defense, but I think I'm sure if we look at this, the analytics are going to back up the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks are a far better defensive team versatility wise, at the rim, um, you know, transition, that kind of stuff when Giannis is on the floor. So, I think that he should have been on there somewhere. It's just hard for me to be like, oh, I'm gonna pull at this guy because all these guys are pretty deserving of the title.
100%. I agree. I think when it comes to it, I think Giannis was just like the guy who got the axe for the sake of the fact that the Cavs had the best defense. So they had
Yeah,
to get somebody in that first team. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Giannis is one of the bigger ones. But before that, I mean, I think flat out, Jaden McDaniels is undoubtedly the one who got most screwed. Because, I mean, you can look at all the advanced stats, all the matchup numbers, what he's holding opponents to. There were people that literally can say Jaden McDaniels is like the best wing defender in the league right now. I want to
yeah,
maybe see like another season of it because I think this is what his second or third year, but this was the first year where he really, I think, really like tuned in, really honed in on like his defensive skills that made him a first round pick that is making him look like a guy that's going to be a part of this core. Is not only just a role player but a really prominent piece. But I think Jaden McDaniels is a big one. Another one for me, Nicholas Claxton. I know
yeah,
like Bam Adebayo, I think is like bona fide every year of his career. I can see him making that second team just because of the fact that he's, switchable, helps to somewhat anchor that defense when it's not Jimmy. But I think Nicholas Claxton is a guy that really, really took a step in the right direction this year. And I would argue that if the Nets stay together completely, if they go through this whole year, and they were cooking this year when they were like how they had their team before all the fiasco. But Nicholas Claxton was like a big part of that success. And heading into a contract year, I think he's eligible for an extension this year, but if not, maybe the next year. But Nicholas Claxton going to make some serious money and I think some serious noise in the all defensive teams in the upcoming years for sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Jaden McDaniels is a pretty obvious one, and I think on the cherry on top is just his peers. A lot of his peers coming out and saying Jaden McDaniels
Hmm.
is a
Definitely.
really
Good
good
point.
defender. I think Paul George talked about this on his podcast. There were a number of other of players that came out and said the same thing. So I think defense is one of the harder things to measure because it's really not a box score analytics specific stat because you can say that you're better on the floor, but quite frankly, if it like presence sometimes isn't measured and intimidation sometimes isn't measured
Mhm.
or um, you know I know there are some things where it's like, oh, how much ground can this player cover from point A to point B? And there's a lot of stats that are coming out like that now. But it's really hard to measure, overall a player's impact on a team's defensive ability. And so a guy like Jaden McDaniels obviously can impact that a lot because he's switchable. And especially in this kind of NBA, he's a guy who fits in that mold. And, with that being said, there's a lot of guys on that list who did make the all defensive teams who do impact that. So it's really about the voters and what their preferences and what they're prioritizing. I mean,
Good point.
Jaren Jackson Jr. I think is a guy who did deserve the defensive player of the year, but that's because he's a guy who meets players at the rim. He's obviously switchable, and those are the main things that he can do. But you can't put Jaren Jackson on Kyrie Irving and expect there to be, you know, you're not going to put him on for every game and make that the defensive matchup, right? So like those are the kind of things where you say, well, is he really the defensive player of the year because he can't guard a point guard? So are we prioritizing versatility now versus before in the past it had always been big man who can protect the rim that intimidates players from getting to the paint because obviously that's where you get your best percentage of shots. So it's about priority. I think like for me, I think switchability is so important in this league now.
Mm, for
So
sure.
guys like Jaden McDaniels should be on there. Guys like Giannis should be on there. Um, so tough. I think like for me, I can't really say someone should have been off there and there are snubs. Like I think there should also be an all defensive third team, in my
I
opinion.
was about to ask. Yeah, I've never really
I,
understood why there isn't. But
I mean
I think when
they
you
have an
look at
all
the
NBA team.
plethora, yeah, when you look at
Like
the plethora of defenders in the league now, I think you gotta. Granted, I think it's just like too long of a tradition to where it feels like if you're making a third team, it's more of a consolation than like that, prestige of being an all NBA third team player. And then, I think it just gets to their, not necessarily taboo, but there's just a little asterisk to it, I think. But there needs to be
Yeah.
something there for sure.
Yeah, the talent pool overall, whether offensively, defensively, or all around, has like significantly improved to the point where it's like, dude, like a third team not only be is able to say, okay, there's no more snubs, but you're able to reward guys who are able to impact the game defensively. So maybe there's another big who's also really good at defending the paint, and there's another wing who's able to guard multiple positions, or there's another guard who's able to be the point of attack on the defensive end and stifles a lot of what like offenses do. So I think rewarding the bigger base of players now, because you probably couldn't have done that 10, 15, 20 years ago. But now we can sit here and say there are six really good defensive guards that deserve all defensive team nods. Same thing with the wings, and same thing with three centers. Like I just
Next
think
year,
that
next year I think is going to be crazy because you got guys like Wemby coming in, and then
yeah,
Chet Holmgren's a guy who's really known for his defensive chops.
yeah,
I think maybe these next couple of years will determine if the third team comes into play.
yeah, I agree. I mean, like look at it. Like we're even seeing the playoffs, and I know this isn't playoff. Like this isn't a playoff award, but we tend to look at the playoff award and look in hindsight. But I hope everyone knows that as we're doing this, we're watching the game live.
Yeah, Denver and
Uh,
Phoenix going at it.
yeah, MPJ and Booker getting into a little tussle. I think I might be a little bit ahead of you because I'm watching it on cable. But um,
I'm watching it through other means.
okay. Yeah, I think the third team they gotta add that. I mean, Davion Mitchell. I was just gonna my point about the playoffs is there's going to be
Davion
guys
really showed
come
his
out.
chops in that series.
Exactly, you're gonna see guys that come out of this postseason, come into next season. They're gonna be significant players on that end of the floor. Davion Mitchell, I think, is gonna be in that conversation moving forward. Um, there are a ton of other guards that I think deserve that. I mean, Patrick Beverly, if he's in another winning situation, I think he's always been a really good defensive player. I know people will say that his antics are more so a thing rather than it is actually like him being good. But I mean, people are intimidated by that, right? So
Mm.
again, it's preference, but there's a big pool. I think they should start rewarding more players.
Lou Dort too is another guy I think we didn't
Yeah,
necessarily touch
Lou
on,
Dort.
but he should definitely get some love there. But all right, let's talk. Let's get into. I want to start with yesterday's game slash series, and then branch off into
Yeah,
obviously today's little action. But do you want to start Miami, New York, or do you want to go Golden State, LA? Your pick, Rube.
let's go. Let's go Miami, New York.
I'm not gonna lie. The one thing I got written down, New York's ass.
You know what? The problem that I have with New York is like their style of play is so predicated on what it's so man it's a style of play that's good for the playoffs, but if this team isn't like 110% pure effort on the offensive boards, if they're
Mm,
not in tune defensively, this is not a team with superior offensive talent or great shooting. Like this is a team that's not been good at those two things all year long, but they've been a really good grinded out team. They've been a good defensive team, and Jalen Brunson has allowed a lot of things to flourish on the offensive
oh,
end because
Jalen
he's
Brunson
just
is that man.
he's a
Man.
star. I mean, he's truly the Knicks all star.
He's going Jimmy fucking first round mode right now. The man's got basically no help outside of Mary RJ Barrett. Did you see the stat? I think Julius Randle is like has the worst shooting percentage of all time of like I
Yeah,
don't know if it was active players, but I think it was minimum like 200 field goal attempts. But
yeah, in the
man,
postseason or something like that, right?
yeah,
Like, yeah, he has not been good. And I think a lot of it. I think we have to give Eric Spoelstra so much credit, our Filipino man. Like we have to
man,
give him so
hell
much
yeah!
credit.
If there was anybody I wanted my team to lose to, I could take Miami because yeah, Eric Spoelstra. I mean, I rank him and Pop, and then it's everybody else.
I
I
agree.
think there's that
I
much of a
agree.
gap.
I think Kerr is a little bit closer.
Mm, you can say
I
that for
think
sure.
there's some people are saying he's on the hot seat now. I think that's BS.
That is disgust. That's a disgusting ass take. Oh my
We can
goodness.
bring that up in the next when we talk about the next
Hmm.
series. But I mean, Spo has game planned so beautifully well from the beginning of the postseason. Obviously with the Bucks, if I may say, Giannis being basically not playing 3 games is. If he plays those 3 games, we're talking about a different series. Let's just be real here. But I don't want to put asterisks on because Miami really deserved to win that series. They
Yeah,
wanted
for
it
sure.
more, right, in those moments. And so now they play New York, and I think it's just literally they have a premier superstar like Jimmy Butler to lead them. I think you're seeing what an acquisition like Kyle Lowry was supposed to be, right? And even like last year, right? Like you see them, a guy like Kyle Lowry, there's a lot of leadership and experience. He brings a lot of composure and poise to the floor. And then the shooters, right? Like it's just this team, Spoelstra is doing such a good job of putting these guys in position to be successful, allowing them to flourish. And a common theme from some of these series have been honestly the role players stepping up,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
I mean, we're talking about in the past few games, like Kyle Lowry, obviously, who was a guy who had been on and off throughout the season. Duncan Robinson getting minutes. Max Struess. I mean, he's been playing awesome.
I
Um,
remember in I think it was game 4 or 3, Kevin Love had like 3 full court assists for the entire game. And it was like,
yeah, and
that's some
he's been
deflating
great.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's an NBA champion too, right?
Mm.
There's a lot of experience, and he's an NBA All Star in this league. So, I mean, I think it's just the key players stepping up when they needed to. I think Miami has game planned really well, and I think New York hasn't had an answer for um, Jimmy Butler, truthfully. And I don't think anybody's had any answer for him all postseason long so far, and I don't think anybody
100%.
will have an answer for him.
Yeah.
He's a
And
different
then
kind of
it's
breed.
crazy too how he hasn't really had to backpack like he did in that first round. I think you're
No,
seeing that with how aggressive Bam's starting to get. Like you said, the role players are really stepping up. Max Struess is, I think he's really helped to fill that void without Tyler Hero being there.
is he
That dude's
shooting like 45% from three or
he's
something
shooting
like that?
something crazy, but yeah, Max Struess is like that dude can stroke it for sure. He's gonna get a nice payday this year. And
And
then
let's
when
not
you look
forget,
at you look at like their whole crop of
yeah,
like undrafted guys. You know, you got Struess, Hayward Highsmith's been like good in spots. Who else am I missing? Omer Yurtsevin is a guy I'm kind of high on. He hasn't really gotten any burn, but I think when you just look at it, I think they've got like 4 undrafted guys in their rotation.
I'm so wrong. He's not shooting 45%. He's shooting 39%. But like,
He goes
still,
on heaters for sure. Like I think last game he had a really good game.
yeah. I mean, we're forgetting the fact too that Miami's doing this without Tyler Hero.
They're leading. No, never mind. Not their leading. Holy Jimmy. They're leading create. I think leading shot creator when it comes to like the 3 levels.
Yeah. So I think this series is done. I think poise and experience and coaching and superstar talent take over. I think New York has just been really good as a team overall, but sometimes
They just don't
you know
have
you
that.
know
They don't have that second gear really. I think
no they don't.
they really just play at their level, and there's just never been any sense of urgency throughout these games. I mean, game one, I think is a similar thing to what happened with that Philly game one, where you know you see the superstar players out, you take it a little easy, and you get got, and now you're playing catch up off of that, and then you give that lower seed team all the momentum in the world, and they're just running and running and running with it, and they're not able
Yeah.
to raise their play to the point to where even to really like effectively combat it. Because I mean, these last 2 games have been kind of like, you know, NyQuil in the sense that New York
Yeah.
hasn't really
Yeah.
been able to have any kind of answer for anything Miami's throwing at them.
I agree. Like I think 100%, and I think there's two things to that. I think number one, um, when they say hard work beats talent,
That is I think that's like the mantra of this Miami team.
I think well on top of that, I think hard work and beats talent
Mm.
because the second gear, the Knicks quite frankly don't have a guy like that. The Heat have a second gear. That's freaking Jimmy Butler. That's freaking Jimmy Butler. He's the second gear. Like
Mm.
he's literally a guy who's proven himself in the postseason year on and year out. Um, I think the other thing, if I'm gonna say about the Knicks, is like they're very very one dimensional offensively, And so a lot of it is predicated on the high post action that they run with Julius Randle, or in the high and then the wing screen and roll, and a lot of start stuff starts there, and they don't have enough consistent shooting for them to close the space or spread the offense, and so oftentimes you find them forcing the issue a lot on shots. They're driving in the paint into guys where there's two guys in the paint. Randall has struggled within closed space because, quite frankly, there's just not enough around him, and there's not a whole lot of ball movement. So a team that's as good defensively as Miami is, at least with their personnel, like that's an easy thing to guard in the playoffs. You can't really match up Hunt against a team where you have Bam Adebayo or Jimmy Butler or Kyle Lowry or Gabe Vincent or even is it Caleb Martin?
Oh, Caleb Martin's
Yeah.
been killing.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been awesome, right? So I always get the two mixed up. I know Cody's on Charlotte,
Mm.
Caleb's on Miami. But I mean, you're talking about defensive versatility, and that matters in a series where the playoffs is often playoff matchup hunting. So um, just can't do that against a team like Miami. I think they've just out game planned and outworked and out talented New York.
And the one guy we haven't talked about, which I think is fitting to how he's been throughout this entire playoffs, is Manuel Quickly. Was a guy that was, finalist for sixth man of the year. Granted, he turned his ankle. Hopefully, he gets back soon. But he just really hasn't gotten it going at all this shit, like this entire stretch of their first round or second round.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a mixture of opportunity and just not ready for the stage. Um, it's hard to put a finger on it. I think Tibbs has played a very tight rotation. So for me, I think the first thing I automatically think of is opportunity. Right, minutes
Hmm.
tend to tighten up. You have a bit of a quicker hook with certain players. You're a little bit less trusting of your younger guys.
Yeah, and
Um,
I guess that and there's like less operating room because you got the starters playing heavy minutes.
exactly. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, sometimes it's about making sure that when Emmanuel quickly is out there, he can be with a player, can generate a little bit of movement for him. So I don't know. It's just one of those things where sometimes just I think sometimes it's just shots just don't fall either. Sometimes you're just the
Yeah,
series isn't for you. The series isn't necessarily built for certain players. Again, it's a matchup hunting game in the playoffs. So, and Emmanuel quickly hasn't been that guy. We've seen a lot of players like with his similar build and style of play that haven't found success in playoffs in the past. I mean, I'm automatically thinking of guys like Lou Williams and Jamal Crawford,
mm,
right? Like
good point.
very
Good point.
similar style players and haven't found that success in the playoffs because it's quite easy to game plan for. So, that's pretty much all I have to say about Emmanuel quickly. I mean, he's been a
He's a
non-factor.
complete afterthought. All right, let's shift over
Yeah.
to Golden State and LA. I mean, flat out, Golden State's had a lot of questionable decisions late game. I think that's the main thing here. You had the pool shot
Shot
in game
selection.
one. Hmm?
Shot selection.
That
Poor shot
too.
selection.
Yeah, I mean, the game last night was insane. Such a good game, first of all.
Yeah.
But then Steph Curry really thought he was going to hit a 30-footer on one of the best defenders in the league. I understand as Steph Curry, you always give him a shot, but Anthony Davis, if there's one thing, if he's not getting it going offensively, he's still doing the thing on the defensive end. So, I think when it just comes to Golden State, it's just been the fact that Curry's really had to backpack a lot of it. I mean, you saw last night, with the triple double, so it's not necessarily that he's contributing solely on the scoring factor. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Jordan Poole's not able to he's not able to really alleviate and give Curry any real rest. You know, Jordan Poole's been utterly useless. I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was gonna bounce back. I thought, courtside in LA, all the women,
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna show out. But we've seen Jordan Poole go from like this rising, he's gonna take over for Steph. He's the heir apparent to like, and he's now looking like he's probably the worst contract in the league right now. And I'm not gonna say that that's like for sure, but I don't think he's gonna contribute anything positive for the rest of this series, whether it's just this next game or Golden State's able to push this a little longer. And that's to say, the guy I want to give some love to, though, if it's not any of the big three, because Draymond, he's been he's on some Anthony Other Davis kind of vibes. Every other game is kind of getting better. Last game was a good one, except for maybe a couple like decisions here. But Moses Moody, I think, has been a big like positive contribution, especially when you look at like their young players. Few dumb decisions here and there in the last game, but he's a guy I think is, yeah, for sure. But he's getting a lot of effort. There was that one play where looked like it was going to be a dead ball. He was able to save the possession. I don't think it turned into points, but just the fact that he's able to do that, big game changer. Andrew Wiggins has been solid. And I just think that Golden State's just there's no answer for Anthony Davis. And I think having to contend with that and the fact that LeBron's finally like fully settled, this is how it should have been from the get-go. And with the fact that their role players are on fire, it's tough. It's tough for sure.
Yeah, I think you honestly like explained it the best. Jordan Poole being a non-factor is hurting them so bad because he's supposed to be the guy that leads the bench unit, and if you don't have consistent production from the bench, it's really hard to win in this league. And he carries a huge percentage of that. He carries a huge block of that. Like I know he's been on and off from the starting lineup this year, but I mean that's what he's supposed to be, right? Like that's his role. Like he's supposed to be the guy, like you said, that alleviates Steph and Clay and Wiggins, and to be like a third and to be a fourth option offensively, and sometimes on the floor to be the number one guy, depending who's on the floor. Anthony Davis has been just. I'm gonna get heaty here for a sec.
You gonna call him the best power forward? I'm sorry. Finish your take. My bad.
Could I call him the best power forward?
I'm not gonna lie. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I mean, because I'm thinking about what you're saying now. It's like
he's looking more like the guy who was like a force in the bubble, a guy who looked like he was supposed to win an MVP or two, multiple Defensive Player of the Years, and it's coming at the right time. And not gonna lie, looking at where it is now, I definitely think he's a bit over Giannis at the moment, and that's coming from a Bucks fan. And not to say that it's set in stone, but as of right now,
that's pretty heavy.
I think he's over Giannis at the moment.
That's pretty heavy. When healthy, which you were seeing so far, right? I think right now he has been okay. So I'll say this first. I think he has been the best player in the postseason this year.
Woo-hoo! Damn!
I think there's a bit of a gap between him and Jimmy. Why do I say that? First of all, not to discredit what Jimmy's done, because obviously what he's done so far to lead Miami, what it looks like will be 2 5-game series, it is incredible. Incredible. Again, Giannis was missing for the first 3 games of the Milwaukee series. Basically, he played 11 minutes in the first game, right? Before he got his back hurt.
I think it was even less than that. Actually, no. Yeah, I think he played the first bit of the first quarter, came back a couple times, and yeah.
And then they're playing New York, right? New York's a really good team. They've been a good team all season long. But if we're looking at the level of competition and what Anthony Davis has been able to do on both ends of the floor, Sacramento, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Sabonis, the Lakers and the Warriors now, the defending champions, and how he's been able to stifle a lot of what they're doing in the paint, because the Warriors play a lot of outside, but they're really at their best when they can get the ball in the paint, especially when they attack off of high ball screens and high DHOs. But Anthony Davis has stifled a lot of what these two teams do really well, simply because he can cover so much ground. I mean, we saw it last night, dude. The way he closed that possession on Steph.
Oh.
Dude, come on. Dude, Steph Curry, come on. Like, you just have to give credit where credit is due. He's been able to stay healthy. Knock on wood, I would love to see him stay healthy this postseason, because he has been so fun to watch, like on both ends, and obviously like LeBron and you're seeing like other guys step up, and that's the beauty about the Lakers. But man, Anthony Davis has been a huge difference maker, and I think that's the reason why I think they'll make the finals.
That could be like a historical thing too, because I mean, if they win, that's the lowest seed ever.
Yeah. Um, with the Lakers and Warriors series, I think the Lakers are gonna take it. Obviously, I mean they are up 3-1 now, so it's kind of an easier thing to say. I'm not gonna sit here and talk about coming back from 3-1 because at this point that narrative is beaten so far into the ground. It's like okay, let's just let the series happen as it will. Like let's stop talking about are they gonna come back from 3-1? Like let's not do the Stephen A. Smith thing. But it's like I think if there is a team that's capable of doing it, it's obviously the Warriors. But I have to say, Kerr has also been a little bit outcoached this series. And while I say that
Hey
Kerr is
man,
close up there,
Darvin Ham. That's
yeah,
that Bucks is six culture, baby.
I think Kerr has made some rotational changes that I don't think were necessarily needed in terms of the starting lineup. I know they did that once with Looney because he wasn't feeling well. Um, but I think rotationally he hasn't been putting guys in the optimal position to be successful. And I think Poole said it in his post conference yesterday. I A lot of it is opportunity. I think
Hmm.
Poole, while you expect him to be great and to step up and play like he did last year in the playoffs when they won the championship, it's difficult when you're not getting those opportunities, and it feels like right now he's kind of just out there versus being a focal point or being a focus of their
Good
offense.
point. Yeah.
And so there are those things too. Um, I hate to say this, but it feels like Draymond has been a non-factor too. Like it doesn't feel like he's really putting his imprint on this series. Um, and that's what he's supposed to do, right? He's the team's best playmaker aside from Steph, obviously, and the best defender on that team. And it doesn't feel like he's set himself in the middle of the series. And I hate to be that narrative guy at the same time, but I did see somewhere that his relationship with LeBron is affecting the series, or you're not seeing as fiery of a guy. I don't want to sit here and judge that and say that because who am I to say someone's not competing as hard because they're friends on the team? But
Mm.
I mean, let's just say it like it is. He hasn't played like up to a standard in this series either. It's been a lot of Steph and a lot of Andrew Wiggins. Clay he hasn't been all that efficient this series either,
I
right?
think
So
maybe game 2 or 3 was when he like got it going, but other than that, yeah, kind of a non-factor.
yeah, he's been really inconsistent so far. I mean Moses Moody. I think if I'm being honest, I think Kerr should have been playing a more like a bigger rotation. I think guys like Kaminga
Oh,
should
man,
be shuffled
Kaminga, I
in.
think, is the biggest disappointment in terms of not getting burned, because
Yeah.
he's able to put pressure on the rim, and I think that's what you really need from
Yes.
the rest of this team to help with Steph, and even to really make AD challenge him defensively. Because even if you're not making a lot of them, if you're Jonathan Kaminga and you can maybe get AD to draw just 2 fouls on you alone, that's a win.
He's
And
also a very good
yeah,
offensive rebounder,
hundred
right? So like
percent.
off misses, he's the guy
They
who's going to be hunting those shots.
Yeah, you can tell this team plays a lot like a veteran team to where there's just not a lot of spunk.
Yeah.
Moses Moody injects a little bit of that, but then Jonathan Kaminga, I think, is a guy you gotta let him at least. You know, Jermichael Green's cool and all. He had that one good game, but I just don't see a
Yeah.
world where he should be like over Kaminga.
I'm like I just am confused, DJ. Like I'm actually confused, bro. Like I'm like how do you not play Kaminga in a series where athleticism is absolutely needed? Because against a team like the Lakers, you need to put pressure on the rim. You literally said it. You need to put pressure on the rim. You need to force plays down their throat in transition. You need to be able to get extra long balls. You need to be able to cover more ground defensively, especially with the versatility that the Lakers have now. I mean, I just don't think they've been utilizing their. I just think it's poor asset management. Just think that
Yeah,
that's the
that's the
reason why
perfect
they're
word.
losing the series so far. Um, I think on the other side of the Lakers, man, I just gotta say, like, it has been so. If I'm LeBron James, man, I'm sitting like back on my chair, just chilling because every game somebody has stepped up. Lonnie Walker, Lonnie
Lonnie
freaking
Walker is
Walker.
a Lakers legend, man. He's etched his name into like the our generation. When they look back and when they got kids, they're gonna say, "Man, y'all, Lonnie Walker was a bad man. He had 15 in the fourth quarter of Game 5."
So now you're gonna absolutely tell me that the Lakers can play D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Rui Hachimura. They can play who am I missing off the top of my Dennis Schroeder. They can play Lonnie Walker. They can play Malik Beasley. They can play Wenyan Gabriel. Who else am I missing? Like they have a bunch of guys
You're
can
not
come
gonna
in there.
mention Troy Brown Jr.?
Has he been getting minutes as much?
I no, not
Like
this series.
that's what I'm
He
saying.
got a
Like
few in the last one, but
this team is deep, man.
yeah,
This
Rob
team is
Palinka,
deep, bro.
man. If
This team is
if
deep. He got
if
himself out of a hole.
if the Kings didn't have as good of a season as they did, Rob Palinka Loki could have swiped that award with for like a month of work.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because I mean, look at what they're doing right now. I mean, this team is they're playing so well, and the reason why I'm saying this is because LeBron James has not had to backpack a lot of load that he has in previous
Mm.
years. Like I think this might be the first year where I sit here and say, "Wow, LeBron hasn't had to LeBron." Right? And he's got so much left in the gas tank. He can conserve this because he can rely on obviously Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Lonnie Walker, these guys to have big games and they can share the wealth as to who's performing well. How could I forget Jared Vanderbilt, who's been awesome?
Oh my
Like he's
goodness,
oh my god.
Van
Like he's been
man. If Vando can just be like super consistent with that corner three, oh
yeah. And he's been hitting it every now and then again
yeah, he hits it
consistently
at
is the
like
thing.
a decent clip for a guy who never shoots threes to begin with.
Yeah.
But you're looking at a guy who's PJ Tucker esque, but
Yeah.
significantly bigger. You know, not necessarily saying he's a better defender than PJ at this point, because I think they're pretty similar. But that's I think that's what a lot of like teams are looking for. They're looking for the guy who doesn't need 12 plus shots a game to be efficient. The guy who's going to compete defensively. You're going to put him on your
Yeah.
best player. And man, Jared Vanderbilt, I think is he's in that tier of like your favorite player's favorite player. He's not going to get a lot of the
100%.
accolades, but you know, if you're in tune with it, if you're watching, you got all those like, you know, outside things that aren't always brought in. Jared Vanderbilt's that guy, 100%.
Yeah. He's been great, man. I mean, it's really hard to sit here and be like, man, this team is 10 deep, right? This team is 10 deep. They're playing really well. LeBron hasn't had to LeBron. He can conserve that energy for when they play. In my opinion, I think it's going to be Denver. And right now, as we're watching, Denver is
Yeah,
up
it's
by
looking like it's gonna be Denver.
17. Um, I mean, they're going to have to go back to Phoenix to win that game. But again, like, I like the Lakers' chances. If
I
LeBron
do
continues
too.
at this pace, they look absolutely good, man. And like, I wanted to ask you, I'm like, let's. They're probably gonna move on this from the series, but
Mhm.
between Denver and Phoenix, or for what I think is Miami and or Philly, um, is there a team here that you can say that the Lakers are going to be scared of?
Oh,
Because like we just talked about it, I just said, hey, like this path to
that's
the
a good
title looks
question. That's a
real.
good question.
Is there a team here that you literally sit here and go, I'm actually scared of them to play them? There's one team on my mind right now that I'm like iffy about, but I'll let you like. What do you
Oh
think?
man, I think Philly is really the only one that I'm looking at.
I
Like,
was gonna say the same
yeah,
thing.
because the oh bro, just
It's the only
imagine the
team that
battle.
matches up.
Yeah,
Yes, that's it.
I can see that. That's the only team that Matt can really Because I think if it's the Celtics, as great as they are at switching everything, you know, defensively, Al Horford's taking a little step back. You saw that in today's game. He was getting
Who's
cooked.
guarding Anthony Davis on the Celtics?
Nobody. Nobody. And LeBron loves to get his get back. So he's gonna bang one on Tatum that like sends him back or something, man.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Man, that's a legendary series right there. Mm,
Lakers Philly.
yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing because, like, again, I think Philly's the one team that's also very deep.
Mm,
They have a lot of the similar qualities in terms of size, switchability, and X factors, right? Because you're talking about X factors: Tobias Harris, Tyrese
bro,
Maxey,
nutty.
DeAnthony Melton,
Daniel
um,
House had 10 points today.
Daniel House. Yes, Daniel House. The other McDaniel boy, right? So,
They got a lot of bodies for sure.
so I mean, that's the one thing. It's like their styles of play. I think they're gonna match up really well. Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid, James Harden, LeBron James.
Oh man.
I think the guard play, Reeves and D'Lo against Maxi. I think you're just gonna see a lot of fun stuff in that series. Again, I'm not sitting here and saying that's gonna be the finals.
That I
There's
think
one
if I
team.
had to pick one, that's the one I'd like to see. Let's shift
Yeah,
right over to Philly then Boston, man. I mean,
yeah,
first of all, Philly's rolling. James
yeah,
Harden's won them 2 games. Like today's game was a fact to like as great as Joel Embiid is, they have a great team. You know,
yeah.
you had contributions from all sides. Like we said, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey had a 30 piece. James Harden was cooking. And man, let, let, let's talk about the Boston Celtics. Because man, if you want to talk about a team that's been, you know, they have all the talent in the world, but it's just so much of this series hasn't gone their way. I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that, you know, Joe Mazzulla, as cool of a coach as has been, you know, he's made some shocky decisions here and there. Not only that, you know, everybody likes to mention, you know, there's no Ime Udoka now, but also
Mhm.
there's no Will Hardy. So you're losing a lot of that coaching depth, a lot of that wisdom on that bench. And, you know, Mazzulla's like he's like the kid who just got his end in his riding around in the Lambo. You know, looks cool.
Good.
He
Actually
goes
good.
super fast, has all the looks, all the bells and whistles. But when it comes to, you know, mastering that beast, being able to, you know, make the smart decisions like calling a timeout in the last possession, it just doesn't work. And not to say that Missoula can't turn it around, because I think if there's anything he's shown this year is that he has the ability to grow. But I just think this year is going to be it's going to be tough for them to come back. First of all, having to go back to Philly for this next game,
Yep.
and I just think he's been great, but he's also left so much to be desired, and I think his slow start was a big contributing factor to how Philly was really able to get the jump on them from the get go in this recent game today.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Missoula comment. I mean, I think you hit it right on the top. Like, um, he's a really good coach. I think his foundations are good. I think there's a character trait there that's missing, and there's a lot of toughness that's missing. Um, Within that locker room, I think right now. And do you think that with the personalities that you have with guys like Marcus Smart, um, and then, you know, I think you have the leadership qualities. It just feels like at the head honcho at the top of your bench, it just doesn't feel like there's that grasp. Um, it's really hard to put a finger on why Boston hasn't found success or why they haven't felt like the giant killers that we thought they were at the very beginning of the year. Because we all came into the season saying, "Oh, Boston and Milwaukee are gonna sweep through
Yeah,
their thing."
that's the
They
NBA
found
Finals.
exactly. Boston found a lot of trouble with Atlanta in the first series. Like there was a lot of trouble there. And then they play a team now like Philadelphia. They haven't been able to find themselves a rhythm. I think their style of play is um, very double O centric. I don't know if that's the right word to say heliocentric for two guys.
You know,
But
I was
yeah,
thinking like, what's the word for? It's not helio, but I was thinking
it's the
duocentric. But double O
duocentric.
sounds cool. I like that.
And the worst part about it is it is duocentric, but Jalen Brown doesn't get enough opportunity still as a scorer.
Man, that's been the whole narrative for the second half. The fact
Yeah,
that he's not getting a lot of shots, whether it's like a lack of, lack of wine to shooter, whatever it may be. Granted, I think a guy that's been a big, big, big bright spot, I think Marcus Smart. As great as
yeah,
he's providing for the defensive end, he you look at today's game, he opened up today with back to back threes. So he's definitely doing his job for sure.
yeah. The
But
thing
yeah,
is, it's like
there's a
it's
big duo thing going on there.
Marcus Smart. That is supposed to be a, oh, we got some offense from him. That's great. That's the cherry on top. You can't rely on him to be the guy. That
Mhm.
is supposed to be, Jalen, Jason Tatum, Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White, those guys, and so to speak. I think their big man rotation has not been great. Horford and Robert Williams, and granted, I think Robert Williams is struggling a little bit with health. Um, I think if we look back on the season, this is a team that would have absolutely loved an acquisition like Jakob Pertl.
Oh man, I remember seeing those rumors. That would have been perfect. Because yeah, I agree. It's like the same thing with the Raptors, to where you know, as great as it is to be able to switch everything, you don't have like a true, true, true big man and an anchor to your defense. Can only really get you so far.
Yeah, and Horford is obviously older. He's aging. He's not performing at the same level as he used to, and that's natural. So none of that's on him. I think their style of play has really limited their ability to be better than they are. Right. I think a lot of the first half of the season we were seeing this team share the ball. Right. There was a lot of team play involved. A lot of guys in rhythm. I think they played a faster pace. Right now it looks very much like, let's find Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, and let's see if we can get something going through these guys, and not the other way around, playing within rhythm, because there are a lot of weapons on the Celtics team, and I just don't think, again, to the point I made about the Warriors, I think it's just a little bit of poor asset management, right? I
Hundred
think
percent.
putting guys in successful positions, I think Jason Tatum would do a lot better on off ball situations, or as a lead initiator into secondary actions with Jalen Brown, maybe screening for each other, maybe dribble handoffs in the high post between each other, and letting guys play spread. Um, so I think those are those kind of things, that little wrinkles in the offense that I think would bring some more dynamics to what they're doing, because they're clearly struggling to find some rhythm offensively. And but with that being said, like, there's a reason why they're not winning this series right now, because Joel Embiid's a monster.
Oh my
Like, he's the
goodness.
MVP, man. Like, he's the MVP. He's been awesome this year in the postseason. And James Harden, he's quietly like shutting down, like, those talks about him, not being Houston James Harden, not being aggressive, him being washed. Like, every time those conversations have
He's
come up,
looking like the guy who like a lot of people like usurped him over D Wade, that he was the
yeah,
third greatest shooting guard to ever touch the court.
yeah, and he's looking awesome, right? He's playing great as a second fiddle. But I think the way I would describe what James Harden needs to be is a second fiddle that looks to be the number one guy, right? Because he
Yeah,
needs
I
to be
like that.
aggressive. He needs to open the floor for a guy like Joel. There needs to be two guys, and I think what makes them so successful as a duo-centric offense is because they play in different positions, they play in different spots of the floor, and so there's not a whole lot of redundancy about what they do. Versus Jalen and Jason Tatum, two wing players, and it's great that you have two guys who can create shots from three levels all across the floor. Problem is, there's not a whole lot of dynamics to your offense, and so you're finding yourself trying to score the exact same way. And you just gotta hope that one of the two guys are hot, or both of them are hot. And we're seeing the same thing with a team like Phoenix with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, right? So they're so reliant on this same style of play to get you your offense, but again, that's an easy thing to defend, whether one guy has it or not. So, um, Philly, man, I've been quietly cheering for them, just because, even though as a Raptor fan, I really like Joel Embiid.
I want to see him
Even though I hate
complete the
his floppy stuff, but
process. I
yeah,
want
I
to
want to
see
see
him
him
complete
complete
the
the process too.
process. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I would also love to see James Harden get a title. Truthfully,
Yeah, that and I
that's what I
wanted
want
to
to
beat Christian's team. Fuck the
see.
Celtics, man.
So all three of us have no teams in the playoffs.
100%. But man, yeah, I mean, first of all, I think the big thing with Boston, last point I'll make at least, they really play to their competition. You know, I saw a tweet that said, "This is why you try in game ones." And I think it's a lot with how a lot of things that Giannis said in his thing, where the Heat, or in this case, the Sixers, were playing to win the game slash series. But the Bucks, and it looks a lot like this, I think, for the Celtics, is that they're playing for a championship.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the Celtics, there's a lot of like passivity in the sense that there's really not a lot of sense of urgency, I think. And you saw that
Guys
with
look like
this
they're
game
afraid to make
today.
the guys look like they're afraid to make mistakes.
Yes, I think that's the way I'd put it too. And I mean, you saw with the last bit today where game was out of hand. You know, Joe Mazzulla put in his reserve guys, and they made it. You know, nothing like scary, but they made it a game in that last little bit. And I think
Yeah.
that was really the first bit of that game there where there was some kind of bite. There was some kind of there was, you know, again, a little bit of spunk to the Celtics. And I think when you look at how they've been playing this whole series, it's been a lot of like, yeah, Joel's hurt. I'm Jason Tatum. Boom, dink. I'm Jalen Brown. Gonna get a nice few shots in the first half, and so and so and so, and then dink a lot in the whole. It's just there's no in the moment like dog mentality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's no like, again, no urgency.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree. I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough. Just their style of play is really hard, man. I know. I'm gonna break it down like this. Like I think in the playoffs we're so used to it getting slower that teams just sort of say, "All right, the game's gonna slow down." But the game doesn't have to be slow. The game doesn't have to be a game of
Oh yeah.
matchups. I know that it naturally is. You always look for the best defensive matchup. You try to get the switch on Anthony Davis on Steph Curry. You try to get the switch on, Jason Tatum getting guarded by DeAnthony Melton. Like we want the barbecue chicken moments, like Shaq says. Like we want that. The problem is like when you can't seek out those options, like that slows the game down. Get out of rhythm, and like their style of play is so duo centric that you're so often looking for that guys just naturally go, all right, where's Tatum? All right, where's Jalen Brown? Passivity, like you said, there's no urgency because really like there's no involvement as a team offensively within their system, so guys just often defer. And so, I mean, they have all the tools in the team to be much better than they are, the way they've played so far. So, anyways, like I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that. Like this is a team that just doesn't look like they're all there.
Mm. And then last thing I'll say about the Sixers, fuck man, I miss PJ Tucker. I miss
That guy's
PJ
real, man.
Tucker, man. PJ Tucker is such a floor raiser. And I mean, you saw in I think it was the game before this, got in Joel's face, you know, told him, you know, buck the fuck up, man, you're MVP. And I
Yeah,
think having a guy like that who isn't the guy but is able to talk like that, that's a big thing to have on your teams. But you know, I think it's clearly here, you and me, closet Sixers fans right now. I mean, I got, you
yeah,
know,
we are.
got the Iverson jersey in the back here.
Yeah,
Damn, man.
Iverson's my favorite player of all time.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, like I mean,
I need
closet Sixers.
there I can't I'm gonna be working, but there's gonna be a shot. Iverson has to be sitting courtside, and that's gonna, you know,
Yeah,
that's gonna be a lot of momentum. Did you see the did you see the shot on the broadcast where they had it was, you know, the Sixers had Doc believing in God again?
that
But
was good, man.
yeah. Oh man, I think it's like, I forgot how many. I think it's like the 30-year anniversary or something like that of like the last Sixers championship. So
Yeah,
if there's any kind of storyline, any correlation, Milwaukee was their last one in 50. You know, go Sixers.
yeah,
All right, let's talk about this last series, the Nuggets and Suns, which, you know,
it's
I
happening
think
right
as
now.
much as people are saying, "Oh, this is the most exciting series," what do they always say, Ruben? Series doesn't start till when?
until the road team wins.
Mm, this is how it is, you know. Whether it's
Yeah.
that Denver air getting them, whatever it may be, you know, Matt Ishbia being a sixth player on the floor. There's
This it's so interesting, man. Like this, it's that's the dynamic of why you fight for home court advantage because
Mm,
it's a real thing. It's real.
especially with Denver.
Yes, yes. Nobody wants to play the Mile High City, man. Yeah, like dude, you can't breathe.
Everybody says, I think they always say, first 5 minutes is literally just for you to get your wind.
Yeah, it's tough to play in a place like Denver. Listen, I think I mean we're watching this series as it unfolds. Denver at this moment, Denver's up 20 with 8:35 left to go in the fourth
Yeah,
quarter.
and they're just
And
trading. There's
can I
really
can I yeah, can I tell you this is as I'm watching this is literally been their offense. Kevin Durant, they bring up the ball, 17 seconds on the shot clock. We pass it around before it comes back to KD or Booker's hands. They dribble, 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 dribble. With next thing you know, 8 seconds left on the shot clock. KD or Book can't get a shot off. They dump it down to 8 with 4 seconds left to make a play. That's been their freaking offense.
man. I will
Whether or
say though,
not, like it's mattered. It's when Booker and KD are making those shots, then obviously they win the game. But I mean, we're watching it right now. Look. Okay, sorry. KD
oh,
just made a terrible cross court pass. Christian Braun goes out and dunks it right in KD's face.
bro, shout out to
Like
Christian Braun.
it's awesome.
He's not clamping, but it's a lot like in the Milwaukee series with the. Sorry, I keep bringing it back to that, but you know,
Yeah,
PJ just to have a body on him so that the rest of your guys can really get their stuff going. That's great to have.
yeah. I mean, they're up 24 now with like 8 something to go. Listen.
Yeah, listen, man. Devin Booker, KD, the combined for such and such and such.
Yeah, let's
What
forget.
about the
Let's
other
also not
guys?
forget.
What about the
CP's
other
also not on the
guys?
floor.
I think that's a big thing too. But I think you're also seeing a little bit of potency within the offense to where that's how Devin Booker can get like his 40 pieces. I mean, that
Yeah,
game he had like their last game, that was insane.
yeah.
That
I mean, he's been playing what like before this game, he was shooting 34 for 43 from the field or something like that.
yeah,
Like it was insane.
that is you can't even really do that shit on 2K.
No, you can't. That's impossible. He's been playing awesome. Like there's not to discredit. I mean, they're again they got 2 wins on the best team in the Western Conference.
Mm,
Um, I just think again it's just one of those situations where you look at this team and it's just a better style of play. I mean, they're sharing the ball really well. Denver has just had a better system, output of players, more consistency of production from a range of guys. They've always had someone step up every game, whether it's been Bruce Brown, whether it's been Michael Porter Jr., whether it's been Aaron Gordon, whether it's been Christian Braun, KCP. So along with the stars like Jamal Murray and Jokic in that 2-man game is freaking unguardable. So
MPJ
I
had a
mean,
good game today too. Started off
yeah,
crazy.
it's really hard to put a finger on the series. Like obviously, if the Phoenix Suns win Game 6, then yeah, it's a pretty dangerous series. Like it's been an exciting one, that's for sure. But part of it also feels like it's not that exciting because it's just been the home teams winning.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Let's hopefully let's see where this breaks. But I think ultimately Denver wins Game 6.
I think he goes 7 personally. That's how
Hmm.
where I'm at right now. But man, is DeAndre Ayton done in Phoenix?
Yes.
I think so too.
Yes, I think so. And the only reason why I say that is because he's the only piece you have to upgrade or maximize the talent around your team.
Mm.
Um,
I think he's
and
being
not only
scapegoated
because
a lot too, personally. And you know,
he's always
you
been.
can say there's like the effort thing, which you know, tape don't lie. There has been a bit of that, but I think it's just the fact that you, like you said, their offense is very, you know, if KD doesn't have a shot, D Book's taking a shot, and then
Yeah,
Aiden definitely, like you said, 4 seconds left. Okay, Aiden, do something.
yeah,
Do your back down dribble with 4 seconds left. But yeah, I agree. I think he's done. Can you imagine? I don't know if it works financially, but if you just swap DeAndre Ayton and Miles Turner, because you know they always talking about that. I think that would be nutty. But I agree. I want to see DeAndre Ayton play in a different place too. because I think he has a lot to his game. If you're able to just even just give him like a few touches to where he's able to showcase his value, I think he can do something for sure.
I don't understand why he couldn't be the main center of the offense, even to start the game. You get some inside out style of play. Get the ball into him, allow him to touch and feel the rhythm of the game. You'll slow down the game that way as well, if because I think the pace of play for Phoenix has been a problem.
Mhm.
Denver has been trying to push the ball down their throats, and defensively they're doing a lot of pressure, so they're trying to create turnovers. So I think it's like one of those things where you got to slow the game down if you can with Phoenix, especially because you don't have you don't have the depth, right? So you don't have the depth to play a high pace action. Otherwise, you're going to get Kevin Durant and Devin Booker to play 44 minutes up and down the floor. Like the amount of mileage that they're probably spending in the series so far. I mean, we just see Aaron Gordon with wide open dunk. It's just one of those things. So it's like I think DeAndre Ayton should be a focal point of their offense to start games, to understand the rhythm, slow the pace
Yeah.
down. I also don't think that there's anybody necessarily that can guard Ayton. I think he's just getting the ball in really bad situations and forced to make a play. And he's just being used as a screener, as a second hand guy, or the last minute play guy. And then he's being scapegoated because obviously everyone looks at him as like the third option on this team. But that's the problem. If he's not a focal point and he's just being made to be like a utility, like a utility guy, then like again, poor asset management. I think that's been a lot of the case for some of these teams that are losing in their series. Oh, holy shoot, Jamal Murray just smoked one. Wow. I mean, dude, I think Aiton's done here.
Yeah.
I think he's been done, right? Obviously, since they signed that contract extension because he
That
wanted
was
to go to
definitely the
Indiana.
writing on the wall. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's out. I'll combine with the fact that this is Phoenix's only asset that they can use to either improve their team or gain some draft capital. Excuse me, some draft capital back because um, this is obviously not a good enough team to win a championship. I mean, let's like again, like, they could win Game 6 and they can win Game 7 and they can go on to win the NBA Finals because everything's
Oh,
up in the air still. But I'm gonna tell you right now, it's a
AD
very
is giving
difficult.
him that fucking work.
Yeah, absolutely. So man, a lot of their offense has been in the mid range. This
Hmm.
is not a team that shoots a lot of threes either. It's hard to win a game, dude.
Yeah, and that's a big narrative that's been going on too, the whole twos versus threes thing. And another thing is like Chuck's I think said it before the game started. It was like, you're living with the fact that if D Book and KD have to score 30 plus a piece just to keep you in the game, you'll live with that. 'Cause, 60, 80 points doesn't win you the game. And I think that's a big thing too, like how we said with the Celtics series, duo century. Oh my goodness, I just saw Jamal Murray just packed that shit. But man, I think it's just the whole. On paper, it looks amazing, but just now that we're seeing it at the highest level, and I think yeah, it does have a lot to do with no Chris Paul. Is you're right. This team does not have the personnel, does not have the depth to contend to definitely even be in the title picture. You know, I think it's going to be another team that's going to be a lot of interesting things going on in the offseason for sure.
Yeah. Again, I think a lot of it will be centered around Aiton.
Mhm.
Unless they manage to move Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul. I mean, we've seen rumors too that Chris Paul could be on the chopping block this year, just considering his age. But again, after trading Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, and the picks that they had, there's not a whole lot to work with regards to assets. So let's see. Let's see. I mean, this series isn't over. We're talking as if it already is because I think we both feel that Denver's going to win game,
If
either
it's
six
not
or
in six,
seven.
it's in seven.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
don't see.
so I mean, we'll leave it at that.
Mm.
I think our Eastern Conference Finals. Or do you think? Let's say it's Miami and Philly,
Philly? Yeah, I like
and
that.
then in the West we're saying Lakers and Denver.
I want to see the Warriors push to seven, but I think yeah, if it's like everything has to absolutely go right for the Golden State team to have a shot. So I think
Yeah,
it will be Denver and the Lake
in the
Show.
Lake Finals we're saying Lakers Philly. Is that our biased choice or is that our realistic
That's
choice?
my realistic. Because I mean, how is AD or no? How is Jokic going to defend AD?
I know that. I know that.
How are any of them going to defend AD?
But I mean, I know AD has been great, but Jokic is a different breed. I really think it's like
Jokic could get a lot of the gravity. Like I think we're seeing Jokic go. He's averaging what, like 47 and 12 or something crazy like that.
I
This could be a
I
series
also
where he averages like 20, 12, and 15 or something insane like that.
yeah. I also think this isn't a team that I think the Lakers don't have an answer for Jamal Murray. I don't think there's an
I
answer for
do want
Jamal
to see
Murray.
my Canadian boy cook.
Yeah, I think he will absolutely cook. And I think Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. are going to find a lot of success against the Lakers.
Michael Porter
Uh,
Jr. I think is a guy who he needs to showcase today's outing more consistently, I think.
yeah, which I think he will. I think there's a lot of confidence from this game. So,
Yep.
um, you know, let's see where this turns out. This has been a really fun playoffs. I think the parity in the league. I just got to make one last comment about the parity. Like people were talking about the parity and it being like not as fun. I think like for some, I've seen two sides of the case. I've seen people saying parity and balance is so fun, and I've seen other people say, well, the best playoff series have always been the ones where it's the same teams and same players playing it over and over again. We've just seen multiple numbers get broken by the NBA communications. Like they've come out and said like they've had record breaking viewership this playoffs. So
It's
I mean,
beautiful to see.
like it's awesome to see because man, sorry to say this, but the Milwaukee Bucks getting cut out in the first round is insane.
No
The
doubt.
third
No
seed,
doubt.
the third seed Sacramento Kings getting ousted by the defending champions who were barely in the playoff race all regular season long. That's insane. Boston down a game to Philadelphia. I mean, dude, Miami, like the way, like they came in from the playing game and they look like they're literally about to make the Eastern Conference Finals. Like this is insane. Like these playoffs has been so fun. It's made every game so fun to watch.
No
I don't think
doubt.
there's been a
No
series
doubt.
that's been bad.
I mean, yeah, I think even outside of the Brooklyn Nets one, because that one was kind of like they only really got in because of the cushion that KD and them gave them.
But that team
Outside
was
of
still
that,
fun to watch. That
oh
that was
yeah,
still a fun series to
they
watch. It
should
was
have
really
won
fun
game
back and
two, I
forth.
think.
Yeah,
And seeing Mikal
agreed.
Bridges really start to emerge again and again, I agree. This I can't even think of a time the playoffs were this exciting. Like the
I
last one you
think
probably got to look to is probably
2019.
2019. I think was good. Yeah.
I think that was. I mean, I'm only saying that because the Raptors, but like it was there was there was a lot of parity that year too because we're talking about parity within the top teams because I mean Toronto had the talent they had, but Philly had the talent, Jimmy, Ben
Oh,
Simmons,
that
and
was.
then you're talking about Giannis
I
and
remember when that
Middleton.
team got assembled. I thought, oh yeah, that's the
Yeah.
team to beat.
Then you're talking about the Warriors. I mean, obviously the Blazers made the conference finals that year. Then like obviously they got ousted pretty quickly, but like that was we were talking about Dame, CJ, and like at their peak. Um, it's just I think like if I'm even looking back, I don't think there's been this much parity in such a long time. Because I mean, if you look back to 2000, it's been Lakers, Pistons, Spurs, like Celtics, Lakers,
Yeah, because
Heat,
well, I think a lot of that comes down to the fact
Spurs.
where I think you look in what is it? There's been a new team in the Eastern Conference Finals or no, there's been a new team in the finals for the Eastern Conference at least for the past what, like 6 years or so, something like that. Because we look at it, you got Boston,
Cleveland,
Cleveland,
Toronto,
Toronto, Milwaukee.
Boston. That's four.
Milwaukee. Did you say Milwaukee?
Yeah, I said. Did I say Milwaukee? Oh, so Okay, sorry, Cleveland. Or yeah, Cleveland, Toronto, Miami,
Hmm.
Milwaukee, Boston. And who was before the Cavs? It was Miami.
But even just the
The
fact that it's
Cavs
been
had
a
a run
different one every year for like that
the
stretch
last
after the
5 years.
last,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, again, that streak might break if the Celtics manage to win Game 6 and 7. But
True, true.
um, yeah, crazy. A lot of parody, man. I've been enjoying these
Yeah,
playoffs. They've been so fun.
basketball is beautiful, man. This
Yeah. See, like that's the thing I'm talking about, man. When you see parody, you see more of the game. Like you can really look at the game and see what teams do, as opposed to like all these talented players just kind of taking over a game, and it's not really fun to watch. Like that's why people there was almost this BS where it's like I love watching college basketball more than the NBA because the team play. No, you don't, dummy. Like you don't want to watch like the guy who could barely make the G League like
college basketball
over.
prior to March is bullshit, man.
I know.
That
So like
why do you think they don't show it here? They don't think that product's good enough to go international. Come
that's what
on
I'm
now.
talking about. Like let's be real here. Like I get it. That but there is some like truth to that. It's like now you're seeing how teams can game plan for a team simply because like they don't have talent that they can rely on every night. And
Hmm.
so this has been fun. Man, yeah, screw it, man. Let's get Denver and Miami in the finals or something, dude. Like that would be so that would be can you imagine that finals? That would be fun. Bam and Jimmy and Kyle
Oh
Lowry and
man,
those guys against Jamal Murray and Jokic. That would be fun.
I think it's just the fact that you know, obviously, like you said again, parody, but I think it's the fact that there's. Fuck, I was just gonna repeat the fact that there's. Holy shit! Oh my goodness, I keep saying that. It's just the fact that there's been a lot of unpredictability. There hasn't been a
Yeah.
lot of fuck, I'm not gonna watch this. I know who's gonna win kind of thing. That's been the beautiful thing. Oh man, I just saw the still of Katie looking stank ass face. Oh
Yeah. Dude,
my
it's
goodness.
been so fun. Like even if you think about the storylines, the potential storylines in the finals, like Philly and Denver, the two best centers in the league, the last two MVPs.
Mm,
Or you could say Lakers and Philly, like two storied franchises.
yeah.
Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, James Harden. Miami and Lakers. Oh, throwback to the bubble.
And would that
Or
be
Denver and
has an
Miami.
eighth seed ever made the finals?
Sorry?
Has an eighth seed ever made the finals?
Wow, that's a good question. Okay, let's do it.
Because that could be a thing in and of itself. I think a lot of people. I think the Vegas favorite is well, obviously prior to today, I think it's the Lakers and
Just one
Celtics
eight seed.
finals.
One eight seed in NBA history has made the NBA Finals.
What year was
The
that?
1998-99 New York Knicks.
Oh, so that would have been who would have been on that? That was obviously
It was
Ewing.
against Houston Rockets. It was Ewing. They had Starks. Um,
Was Allen Houston on that team?
I think so.
Oh man, yeah, that
And the coach
was.
was Jeff Van Gundy that year. Dude, their record was what was they? 27-23. They finished fourth
Oh, that was a
in the
lockout. That was a
division.
lockout year.
That was a lockout year. Oh my god, look at that team. Wait. They had Allen Houston, Patrick Ewing. They had Marcus Camby, Rick Brunson, who's now the assistant coach and father of Jalen Brunson, Latrell Sprewell,
Oh, that's a nasty team.
Johnson. Like that team was,
That's
dude.
a
That team was
bunch of
dirty.
dogs. Whoo.
Yeah, man. And I think they lost in 6 games, if I'm not mistaken.
That was. I feel like this might be something crazy to say. Those were the 2 years where there was like that was probably the last part of the where there was like a decent good bit of parody. Would you say? Because
That
obviously
year, the '99 year,
that the whole 2 years or whatever it was without Jordan in there.
probably because like Pippen and Jordan was something else, man. I
Hmm.
think that was because like it was like the 6th seed Houston Rockets that won the '99
Yeah,
title.
that's the lowest seed to ever win.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of I think a lot of the parity was also caused by the lockout. It's really difficult to play a
Yeah.
full NBA season and get your legs under control. I think we kind of saw some of that in 2012, right? With it was the Heat and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Um, yeah, I mean that's crazy. Like there hasn't been this much parity in such a long time. But I'm glad we're benefiting from it. Like as
Mm.
viewers, like this has been awesome basketball.
And man, to think next year you're gonna have Sacramento coming back. OKC is gonna add Chet Holmgren. You know,
I think
I
some of
think
these teams are gonna be
Orlando.
breaking it up though.
You think so?
Yeah, I think we're
Oh,
gonna
no
see
doubt.
another star team next year. I think we're gonna see at least two super teams assembled next year. Just
I
with what it
I think
seems like
that,
some
and
teams blowing it up.
I think there's a good amount of teams that they might not. It's gonna be, it's gonna be like the Charlotte Hornets in Melo's like rookie and sophomore year, to where, yeah, they might be
Yeah.
ass, but they're fun and they're fun and a competitive team to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last question. Okay, we'll say it like this, Ruben. Who's like a team that you're isn't like a isn't like, you know, your favorite team, obviously, or one of the top teams in the East or West that you're excited to like to watch some games?
For next year.
Yeah.
That isn't Toronto. I'm not gonna be excited to watch them next year. Unless they make some significant changes. So, sorry, Jerry, I hope you're listening. Probably not, but um mm,
Yeah, there's a lot. You're probably looking at the standings or whatever it is. There's a lot of teams I think are going to be exciting next year.
I do too. I think I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that the standings are going to be very similar next year. I
Okay.
think the standings are going to be very similar next year. I think the teams that were in the play-in are also going to be some of the teams that are flirting with playoff positioning too. So I'm going to say that. But if there's one team that I'm really looking forward to watching next year, there's two. Brooklyn, because I want to see the continued ascension of
Yeah.
Mikal Bridges, and they have picks. Like I think that's going to be an exciting team. I would really love to see what Ben Simmons looks like on a team with much less pressure now, because I think he can find his way back on the squad too. Cam Johnson, I think another year growth. I think he's going to be a feature player. So I'd
Oh,
love to
he's
see
going to get a
that.
bag too. He's going to get
He's
a good
gonna get a
bag.
bag.
Yeah.
So that's one, and the other team is please, oh please, Zion get healthy, because the Pelicans were dirty when he was healthy. They were the best team in the league at one point.
Oh
So
yeah.
like once he's healthy, I think they're good. I want to see the continued ascension of guys like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. I really like the young pieces that they have. Dyson Daniels, I think, is a really good player. I think he's got a lot of good skills. He's basically like a point forward.
Oh,
Um,
6'8". Nasty.
yeah. So I really loved watching the Pels this year, especially when they were healthy. Brandon Ingram went on a freaking tear to end the season, and
Yeah.
I think that's going to continue into next year now that he's much healthier. So Pelicans, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do next year.
I think for me, I got two as well. Number one, the Oklahoma City Thunder, man.
Yeah.
That's going to be electric to watch. Seeing how that offense is going to operate when you add in a guy like Chet that could help stretch the floor. And then you got, no, second year Jalen Williams, who's only going to continue to get better. Josh Giddey is continuing to improve his playmaking chops. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is obviously the man. I ain't gonna lie. I'm taking Shea over Steve Nash. I know that's outlandish to say,
Wow.
but I'm taking
Wow.
Shea. Shea is cooking Steve Nash in a game of ones. You know, you could say the whole Steve Nash would give you all the assists and all that, but right now I think I'd take Shea.
Is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander a top 3 point guard in the league right now?
See, do you consider him a point guard, or you consider him more of like the combo guard?
Positionally, he plays the point guard. I think style of play, stylistically, he
Yeah,
is a combo
more of a
guard.
combo guard. See, if we're going by, you know, the whole basketball reference thing, top five, I think so. Because okay, who's in front of him?
Steph, De'Aaron
Yeah,
Fox.
De'Aaron Fox and Shea, I think is like, I don't know if that's clear.
Oh, wow. I'm not sure because actually, you know what? I hate doing this because like sometimes style play changes when you switch a guy. But if you were put SGA on the Kings, you think they'd have the same amount of success? if
No,
not more.
but I think it's the same thing if you put Fox with SGA, or if you switch it to where Fox is in
Fox
Oklahoma,
Oklahoma
it's
City,
not
it's
going
the
to be
same
the
thing.
same thing.
I agree. So
I think the thing with Shea is he just needs, because he's proven that he can shoot like the three ball at a decent rate. So I think he needs to get a little bit more back to that. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Giddey's not a super consistent 3-point shooter. Jalen Williams was a little streaky to start the year. And then, Lou Dort's Lou Dort. He can do it here and there. But I think you just continue to let this team gel. And it'll open it up even more. And Shea, I think, will evidently be, you know, we see his ability to be crafty from the mid range. I think he's going to expand that.
top three guards right now: Steph, Dame, Ja, SGA. Does he take one of those guys out? I might say Dame.
Yeah.
I might have to
But
take
hey,
SGA
man,
over Dame at this
Damian
point.
Lillard's going to be a Milwaukee Buck to some people. So we'll see what happens there.
Hey, we might be a Toronto Raptor next year too.
He would not go to Toronto.
Hey, he would, man. If it's the right deal, he don't got no say. Does he have a trade clause?
I don't think so, but I feel it's like an unspoken one. Because they're not going to offload it to some shithole like Charlotte.
Okay, yeah, for sure. But if the deal was right and Pascal was staying in Toronto, I think Dame and Pascal would be fun to watch.
I could see that. That would be nice to watch. Yeah.
And I would trade Scotty for Dame. I would. I would. I would. I would. I would. I would, as long as it did include any more crazy picks. Because I think you got to keep OG to make that competitive. Pascal. I mean, we're going on a tangent here, but
Yeah.
anyways,
Man.
I
SGA.
think Dame's on a new team next year.
I think so too. But, another little side note.
Dog.
Fuck, man, this is bad podcasting. But another little tangent. I'm excited to see Shea cook at FIBA this year. That's gonna be amazing to watch. Can't wait to look at that. And then the other team I'm excited to watch. Give me the Pacers. I want to see what a healthy season for them looks like, because we saw their ability to stay in the top 6. And then as soon as Tyrese goes out, boom, now they're tank, and then they went to the whole tank thing. I'm excited to see what Benedict Mathurin brings into his second season. Not saying it could be a thing because we saw with Laurie, he got his confidence from going to Eurobasket. Not to say that's gonna be the same thing with Benedict Mathurin with the FIBA and all that, but has to help you. You got to think that at least. They got a lot of good pieces there. Andrew Nemhard, they're adding another lottery pick. It's looking good in Indiana.
Yeah, I agree. I think Indiana's going to be a fun team to watch. I think they're going to be they're flirting with the play-in also, but I think that's going to be a fun team to watch next year.
No doubt. Well, all right, Ruben, any last little bits to say?
Nothing left other than enjoy the playoffs, everybody, because this is one of the best ones we've ever seen. It won't be the same next year, so enjoy every game and watch as many as you can, because every game has been fun to watch.
100%. With that, stay safe, stay blessed. We'll see y'all soon.